Hello, Toy Collector fans, Universal Toy Collector here, and welcome to the channel. And welcome to another episode of My Collecting Life, the series where I get to chat with you, members of the toy collecting community, about your own personal collections, finding out what got you into collecting in the first place, and what gives you that toy collecting buzz. All right then, you lot. So we have another episode of My Collecting Life, which can only mean one thing. We have another guest. And I'm guessing the question is, who is this week's guest? Well, before we seek out and find out who it is, let's take a look at some of their collection in a musical montage. And once again, we are treated to another fantastic collection. We had a little bit of G.I. Joe, we had a little bit of Transformers, but we had a lot of Star Wars. It's a pleasure to welcome to the channel for the first time, Andy, also known as Delvian Seek. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hi, Stu. I'm all right. Thanks. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad, not too bad. And I just want to say a huge thank you for joining me on this series. It's a pleasure to finally get to speak to you one-to-one, which is, I know we've met in person a couple of times, haven't we? So,
yeah, you're the first person, I think, in this community, you and Georgie, that I met face to face for the first time. So it's
that was at Star Wars Echo, wasn't it? That was at Echo Base last year.
Yeah.
I mean, that was pretty weird because making our way to Echo Live, and we got stopped previously about 5 minutes before by a gentleman, and he recognized me, and I was like, "Oh, okay, hello," and I said hello to him and stuff like that. And then we're literally outside Game Toy Shop the game shop, weren't we? And you come up and said hello, and I was like, "Oh no!" And he was like, "Delvian Seek," and I was like, "Hello," because I recognized the name. So it was finally nice to get to put a a face to a name. So yeah, because was that the
Yeah,
first event
likewise.
you ever went to?
I mean, I've been to Comic Cons and I've been to
Yeah.
Celebration, but in terms of collecting event, yeah, that was the first one I'd ever been to, and I
Okay.
loved it actually. I really enjoyed
Yeah.
it. Just
Cool. Well,
pure Star Wars.
yeah, I know, right? I know. Well, we're getting to that a little bit later in the conversation.
Yeah,
You said you know a little bit about the series, so you know you've got 10 questions coming, all about you and your collection. Runtime roughly about an hour. If we go over, who cares? It's all good, not a problem. So when you're ready, sir, let's crack on with the first question, shall we? All good?
okay, go for it.
Okay, cool. What toy lines were you into as a kid, and what memories do you have of those toy lines?
Well, I think you can probably guess. Star Wars is it was
Yeah,
kind of the main one, really.
yeah,
So I was about 3 or 4 when Star Wars came out at the cinema.
yeah.
So about 4 or 5 when the toys started coming out, and I was just on them straight away. So
Really?
yeah, I just sort of like loved Star Wars toys, sort of like waiting for
Wow.
the figures. Everyone at school was into it. It was a big thing, Star Wars at the time.
Yeah, it was.
There wasn't anything else like it, sort of like out there, and it was a new way of sort of like toy. So some of the toys I had when I was a kid it was Lego, or I think I even remember having ball in a cup when I was
Oh
a
wow.
small child.
Yeah.
So like handmade
That is proper
toys.
old school. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it was really exciting, and I just love Star Wars, and just always have loved Star Wars.
So
But
that
I
was
mean,
from a very early age then that you got into
yeah,
Star Wars. I think I was probably 1980 when Empire Strikes Back came out. So I would have been 6 before I got my first sort of like
mm,
toys and stuff like that for Christmas and what have you. So yeah, wow, that is a proper early age. And you understood what they were, and you know
yeah.
you'd seen the film, I'm assuming.
Yeah. I remember I saw the film in the cinema the first time that it was released when it was just called Star Wars,
Yeah, yeah,
um, and then I watched it again when I was a little bit older when the Empire Strikes Back came out because they used to do double showings of it. But it
yeah,
took a while for Star Wars to go around all the different towns. When it hit your town, it was kind of a big thing, sort of like going
yeah,
to watch
yeah,
it at the cinema. And I remember there was toys everywhere. There was even like there used to be a decorating shop in town called Fads, and I remember seeing an original Princess Leia Organa figure.
wow.
Everywhere was just selling Star Wars toys at the time. So
I mean, that was a good thing about it, wasn't it? Back in those days, they really did celebrate the films, and yeah, it was absolutely brilliant. Because when did it come out in the UK, Star Wars? Because it was a long while after it was released in the US, wasn't it?
77, 78, I think it came out. So I can't remember exactly, but I remember going to see it. And I remember I didn't go to first of all. My brother went because he was a bit older, but it just played forever, just played for ages. So
Yeah, yeah,
and then I remember seeing it when it first came out, and I remember bits of it. I was quite young,
yeah,
but I remember the beginning part. So
yeah, yeah. So Christmases and birthdays from that moment on then was predominantly all Star Wars stuff.
pretty much
Do you
until
have
sort of
any
like
vivid memories of Christmas or birthdays? Anything that stands out at all?
yeah, I remember sort of like around Return of the Jedi. I remember getting the Rancor
Oh wow.
for Christmas, and I remember my parents hadn't quite wrapped it up so I could see it, so I knew what it was, and I was sort of like,
Oh,
and it was great, just sort of like just getting all the figures and everything. But it was they were a lot cheaper. I didn't have too many of the vehicles. I remember having
yeah,
had the Millennium Falcon and an X-wing, and I had Darth Vader's Tie Fighter, but I didn't have that, but I had a lot of the mini rigs because they were
yeah,
cheaper alternatives.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
love those. I love those. But
The mini rigs were cool because they were
they
supposed to be
were,
vehicles that were set within that galaxy, but his George Lucas's vision of those mini rigs was they were just off screen, weren't they? That you or was it George Lucas or was it the guys at Hasbro?
well,
Not
it was,
Hasbro,
I think it
Kenner.
was Kenner. Kenner
Kenner,
still
you wouldn't.
works.
Yeah, they were the vehicles that you just saw. They weren't quite on screen. They were just off screen. Those kind of vehicles. That was
Yeah,
what that
and
was supposed to
I'm
be.
pretty sure some of them may have appeared sort of like in the comics or something. There was like
Yeah,
a little two-person sort of like shuffle type thing, which I'm pretty sure I remember seeing in a comic once.
yeah,
So, but
yeah,
that was the thing. I mean, it was just imagination, really. I mean, I used to sort of take the figures was outside, and there'd be sort of like sand or rocks, and you'd sort of like recreate scenes sort of like outside. And because all your friends were into it as well, you could. It was a communal sort of like play
It
experience as
was,
well.
wasn't it? Because
Yeah.
everybody had that thing in common, which was Star Wars, and you know, as a kid and stuff like that. Um, with with regards to Christmas, you said about the Rancor and stuff like that, and you could see what it was because it hadn't quite wrapped it. Did that kind of spoil it for you, or was you quite happy that you got it, or was it, you know, you would like to have not known until you unwrapped it completely?
Now I always usually read and sort of like the end pages on a mystery novel or something like that. I like spoilers, so
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. It's but I mean there was so much stuff around for Star Wars sort of like then. I remember I had sort of like a T-shirt and sort of like drinks cups, and it was pencil sort of like toppers and some stuff
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
It was just everywhere, everywhere.
yeah.
And I remember getting some model kits and things like that, which was,
Okay.
and the little, do you remember the records that used to sort of like play the stories and everything?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Those sorts of stuff. And then, of course, it kind of got to 1983. And I remember when the last 17 came out, my mum was just happened to be in the toy shop, and they were bringing them out. And even though I don't think she got into fisticuffs with the other mums that were in there, she made sure she secured those last 17,
Oh
which
wow.
I was really really grateful for. And she said, "No, you can open them at Christmas." And I was like, "I really don't want to wait until Christmas." So she did actually let me open them. But I remember at the time she said, if you keep them in the packaging, they'll be worth some money. And I was just like, no, they won't, no, they won't. I just want to open them now. And I'm glad I didn't listen.
Yeah.
I'm glad
I mean,
I
that's the
actually
thing, isn't
went.
it? As kids, it back in the day, it would have been unheard of for like you to get a figure and then keep it in the packaging, even to go in and get two
Yeah,
of one character, you know, one to open and play with, another one to keep, because you had no idea,
no.
did you,
There
at
was
that
there was
time?
so many of them as well.
Yeah.
It was ever. I remember in our local Debenhams. It might have been David Prowse. Everyone said it was, but some guy in a Darth Vader suit sort of like signed a Star Wars sort of like figure for me.
Oh
Um,
wow.
and well, I regretfully sold my Star Wars collection when I was a bit
Oh,
older.
I was going to
Yeah,
ask you, have you got any of your childhood Star Wars stuff? It's all gone.
it's all gone.
Oh,
So
no.
I really really regretted it, because it was a point in my life. I was in my early 20s, and I needed rent money, and someone offered a good price, and I sold it. And I felt quite guilty about it actually. And plus, I missed the figure. I missed them because I had a really strong childhood connection to those figures,
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
represented sort of sort of fun, happy nostalgia, sort of childhood memories.
Mm,
So when I was in my 30s, I started replacing the figures, not all the vehicles, but I think I'm missing three of the figures now.
okay.
Um,
You're doing a little bit better than I am with the original Kenner figures. I've still got about 9 to get, and they will last 17. So, and I've said the story so many times. I wish I'd have, in hindsight, got those figures first before I started collecting everything else, because that way I would have got them. Because the prices at the time, although they were fairly expensive for the last 17, nowhere near
let's
to what
no,
they're worth now, and if it's what they're going for now.
when I bought most of these figures, it was probably about 20 years ago, sort of, and prices weren't too bad. And I remember
Yeah,
looking, one of the ones I need is EV99.
yeah.
And I remember looking on eBay and seeing the price 60 quid, and I just thought, I'm not paying 60 quid. That's
Yeah,
outrageous
I'd
price.
snap your arm off for that now, 60 quid. I'd be, there you
Exactly.
go, take my money. Do you know what I mean?
I know.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh
But,
dear.
no, well, I, you can't predict what's going to happen in the future. There were
No,
so many of them
you
made.
can't,
So,
and that's the thing. I mean, you know, like I say, it would have been unheard of at that particular time to any of your toys, whether it's Star Wars, GI Joe, Masters of the Universe, Transformers, whatever. It was, those toys were for playing with, and you'd see them in the store. You'd buy them. You'd take them out the box. You'd throw the box. You get. I mean, I kept the card backs for the Star Wars figures. I kept the card backs. You know, took them out of the bubble. Kept the card backs just because of the images and the figures that you got on the back. And it was the same with the GI Joe cards as well. But other than that, the figures and the toys were meant to be played with, and that's what they were designed for, and that's what we did.
your card backs, did you have the name peels sort of cut out on some of them where you actually
No,
cut out the name peels to send off the figures?
no. I didn't. I kept my even the pops. I kept them on as well. I didn't go in for any of that mail away sort of stuff. So after 1983, then Star Wars sort of Return of the Jedi had come out. The toys had sort of like you know weren't really that popular anymore because there was no film. So they the figures weren't that um, um, plentiful, should I say, in the stores and stuff like that. What do you get into anything else toy wise?
Well, I remember sort of at the same time as Star Wars, I was into Lego, but a lot of Lego I was into wasn't. I only
Yeah.
ever had one set, and that was the Lego Castle that I got one. I think it was a birthday, and I remember sort of like my dad having lots of fun building it whilst I watched. And it was that yellow Lego castle one, and I loved that. I loved that. But a lot of the other Lego
Yeah.
I've had was all passed down. So sort of like through family, I can remember the old big old tin Quality Street tins. We used to keep it all in that. And now I think my niece has ended up with most of it. Um, but then around about 83, I think I was into Transformers for a bit. I started to get into
Okay.
Transformers. I liked Transformers. Um, but it wasn't. I did sort of like collect quite a few. I had quite a lot of the Autobots, quite a lot of stuff, but I didn't have like Megatron or Optimus Prime. But I certainly did enjoy it. My brother was into Action Force, so when I was
Oh,
sort of
okay.
like Star Wars, he had Action Force, so it
Yeah.
was great because I
Like
loved
Z
the
Force and SAS Force, that type of thing.
yeah. So
Yeah.
before it all went over to GI Joe, and there was all the like the Arctic, the Space Force, and all that sort of stuff. He had all of that. Of course, I
Wow.
had the cardboard Death Star, Power Toy Death Star.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He
Yep.
had the Action Force version of that, so we used to
Oh,
sort of
wow.
intermingle our toys and sort of stuff like that, which was
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
fun. But anyway, after that was Transformers, and so there was another line, the Terrorhawks, if you
Oh,
remember that
okay.
series, the puppet series.
Yeah.
Um, and they had a line of figures, and I remember sort of collecting those. There was a few Battlestar Galactica sort of figures that came out, which had some of those. Had the Daggett and the Imperious Leader, one which always smelled really bad. I never liked that figure because it had a
Oh,
really
right.
funny
Okay.
smell to it.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it was a really odd smell to that figure. But
Where
anyway,
did you find those figures, the Battlestar Galactica figures? Because I do remember them as a kid, and I remember the Star Trek figures as well. You know, the 5 POA Star Trek figures. But I never ever I saw them at car boots and at um like uh,
Markets,
what do you call it, markets and stuff like that. But I never ever saw them in store in their packaging. So I was
no,
just intrigued to know where you found them.
I'm pretty certain I remember one of the Star Trek figures getting them in packaging. Because we had, I think when I was a kid, there was about three toy shops. Now there's none. No, there's
Yeah.
one where I live now. The Battlestar Galactica ones, I don't remember. I think I must have picked them up from markets and stuff like that. But yeah,
Okay.
the car boot sales and sort of like stuff, they're still popular down this neck of the wood. Well, my brother and I used to go to coffee sales, see what we can pick up, but there's not much there these days,
No.
unfortunately.
No.
So
But I mean, I didn't even know they did Terrorhawks figures either. Because I mean, that was a I remember watching that as a kid, and that there was one episode where there was this alien, and it was sent to um go after the Terrorhawks, and he ended up crash landing on that planet, and he ended up in the cave, and that trail of blood that led to the cave and stuff like that. With he scared the living daylights out of me. That
yeah, it was like a lizard creature, wasn't
yeah,
it?
that,
It's
that
like,
he really
yeah,
did. I was like, wow. I mean, and as for a kid, I was like, oh, I'm not too sure about this, but
yeah.
it was great.
Terrorhawks
I
was
loved it. I thought it was a great series.
it's fun series. I mean, bear in mind, sort of like when I was a kid, before Star Wars came along, the things that we used that were repeated on TV were like old black and white silent Harold Lloyd films,
Yeah,
Tom and Jerry,
yeah,
Flash Gordon, but the Buster Crab versions of Flash Gordon, it was still
yeah.
being repeated because there was just nothing sort of like else on. And there was a few bits of animation, sort of like I remember the Flash Gordon animation, sort of the filmation one from sort of like the 70s and 80s or 80s, stuff like that. But it was but yeah, sort of then Star Wars came along and just changed everything really.
It did. It did. And what was it like for you Saturday morning TV or after school TV? I mean, we had so many great TV series and animated series. You had Master of the Universe, you had Thundercats, you had, like you say, the Terrorhawks, G.I. Joe, what else was there? Transformers. I mean, was you into all of that lot? Did you watch any of that lot at all?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I remember Transformers being shown on, I think it was Whackaday,
Oh
back
God.
in the day. I
Wow.
know,
Yeah,
Jimmy
yeah.
Mallet, Mallet's Mallet.
Yeah, that's it.
I know. And so, but we were quite lucky actually, because my parents sort of like, we didn't have much, but they did sort of like, they got us things, and we actually got a lot of early sort of satellite TV. It was on the old Rediffusion system. You had to click the switch to change channels,
Oh
and
wow.
I used to see sort of like lots of. I mean, I used to watch on normal TV, sort of like Masters of the Universe, which I liked and
Yeah.
I watched, but I was just
Yeah.
never really into the toys. I had a friend who
Yeah.
was into that, and I was just, no, not for me. And that Thundercats. But I used to like cartoons on some of those early satellite channels like Jason and the Wheeled Warriors, which I loved, and I would have loved a toy line of that, which I think they
Okay. Which
did.
one?
But
Which one was that again? Jason and what?
Jason and the Wheeled Warriors.
Jake,
Um,
that rings a bell. I can't
it used to
quite
be
remember
chased.
that. It does.
It was like cars and vehicles, and some of them were plants that would attack and sort of like stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Google it,
Yeah.
Google it, and
Yeah.
Thundar the Barbarian,
I remember
which
the
was
name. I remember the name, but I can't remember the card. Yeah. Rings a
I
bell.
used
Yeah.
I loved sort of like things like that really. Sort of
Yeah.
like just sparked the imagination, sort of
Yeah.
like as a
Do
child.
you
But
ever remember a again, it was a series, Puppets. It was called, oh, what was it called? Starfighter, X Bomber.
was that the one where the ship used to sort of like transform or sort of like into a big robot?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so you
Was
had
it?
the little ships, didn't you, that all sort of like transformed in it, and you had the big, like
Wasn't
the
it
bomber,
called?
and it was like a big X thing, and it looked like you had like
It's called
um
Starfleet.
Starfleet. That's it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Starfleet. Yeah,
yeah, I do remember that.
that was awesome,
Remember
wasn't it?
that.
How cool was that?
It was a good sort of like show, and Robotech and sort of like stuff like that. We used to
Yeah.
watch. My parents hated me watching Robotech because they would just go, "Hey, hey," all the time, but they didn't want
Oh,
me picking up bad language. Was too late, really.
oh dear. I know the answer to this question, so I'm going to ask it anyway. But I want to know why. What was your favourite toy line as a kid, and why? And did it ever change at all, or was it always predominantly Star Wars?
It was always Star Wars.
Yeah. What was it
I
about Star Wars then that set it apart from anything else that you had as a kid, toy wise?
I think it's because you had so many figures and the choice, and there was that world building. You could sort of like set things up.
Yeah.
Um, and I used to like creating displays, and I'd use the Lego sometimes sort of like to build things to go with the Star Wars figures,
Yeah. Yeah.
just sort of create those environments. And in some ways that hasn't changed from the way that I collect now. I mean, I like collecting the figures and everything, but I actually quite like collecting, making the worlds and the little
Yeah.
environments and
But
displaying
we'll get
everything
to your
with them.
dioramas in a bit because there was a few of
Yeah,
those in the pictures as well, which is pretty cool. So,
but it was the choice. I mean, it was just such a big line. I mean, I remember. I
mm,
think my favourite sort of like part of the Star Wars line was Jabba's palace, because you had so many sort of like aliens,
yeah.
and sort of
Yeah.
like just being able to make that up, and even like the like Spice Needles on the Revo band. It was just great, sort of like having that. And I I used to look after my figures. I used to look after
Yeah.
the weapons and sort of
Yeah.
like stuff like that. And
Isn't it weird with the Star Wars toys, especially the original Kenner 96 figures, that when Return of the Jedi come out, they they had a great selection of background aliens from Jabba's palace, guards that were only in it for like 2 or 3 minutes screen time. You'd see them
yeah,
blink and you'd miss them, kind of thing. What was it? What do you think was the reasoning behind that? Because you never really got that with Star Wars. Yes, you got Hammerhead and Greedo and Walrus Man at the time and Snaggletooth. They could have expanded more within the aliens of the cantina, couldn't they, at the time? But they chose not to. They had, was it 21 original figures from Star Wars,
I
the
think so.
first movie
Yeah.
that come out. But then after that, the figures sort of really took off. I mean, you got quite a few background characters, didn't you? Especially with Return of the Jedi and the aliens and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, Empire Strike Back didn't have that many aliens really, apart from the bounty
No.
hunters, and of course we got
Yeah.
all of those. But then Return of the Jedi was you had Jabba's palace, you had
Yep.
Ewoks, you had all the Jedi
Yeah.
guards. You could
Yep.
almost see Lucas sort of like building in a variety of different characters in the background. Thing that's going to be a good figure. That's going to be a good figure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, he signed over the merchandise, didn't he? I mean, he had the merchandise.
Yeah.
He signed for the merchandise and stuff like that. So he obviously wanted to make it work, which was
But they
genius
were
idea,
very.
really, wasn't it?
I mean, they were. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't blame them at all. I mean,
Yeah.
as kids, you sort of like you want to play with those alien figures, those weird sort of like. I mean, I used to love the pig guard, the sort of
Yeah.
Gamorrean
Yeah. Yeah.
guard. It was a
Yeah.
great figure, and I think I remember having a couple of those, and you needed to army build with sort of like with some of them as well, like stormtroopers. It's like
Did
that's
you
a
army
bit of
build?
not so much with the original figures, because
No.
bear in mind, I mean, a lot of the times I had a bit of pocket money, but it was going on new figures coming out, so and I was
Yeah.
relying on
True. True. Yeah.
parents,
Yeah.
so it
Yeah.
was no, you've already got that one. I mean, I marvel at my parents' memory skills, remembering which ones I had and which ones I didn't have.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'd be
Yeah.
able to do that now.
Oh, that is such great memories back as a kid playing with
Yeah.
those toys line. I mean, any toy line I had as a kid, I thoroughly enjoyed those days for sure. And
Well, it
yeah,
sparked the imagination because you played with the toys
yeah,
and you recreated the films, but then you started sort of like just it started that child creativity, sort of like new adventures, and of course with your friends as well. Sort of playing it, it was great fun. It was
yeah, yeah,
it,
definitely, definitely. I mean,
happy
your
times.
imagination ran wild because you did then sort of like take matters into your own hands. And I always remember the advert with the Star Wars figures. It says, "Oh, the destiny of the galaxy lies within your hands." So you kind of like did your own missions and your own storylines and stuff like that, which I just thoroughly loved. And I think that's missing at this day and age, really, with kids and playtime. I think it's because I you've got like all the interactive like computer games and stuff like that, haven't you? We didn't have that so much in those days, so we were allowed to sort of like
Yeah.
run free with our imagination and stuff like that. And I just thought it was a wonderful time.
Well, I mean, the figures they were a likeness, but they weren't great. Some of the figures, let's be
Yeah, but
honest,
did it
they were
matter?
like no, because they were just representations, sort of symbols, and your
Absolutely, yeah,
imagination sort of like took over. Whereas I think kids today, and I don't want to be that old guy, sort of the youth today, sort
we're
of
all
like
that old guy. We're all that old
I
guy.
know, it's all presented for them. It's all completely imagined, sort of like for them now, sort of like
Yeah,
on screen. So they don't have to use their imaginations as much.
yeah,
I'm sure they
yeah,
still do to some degree, but
yeah, yeah. When did you stop playing with your toys, and when did you realize you were becoming a collector?
so I think sort of it was around secondary school, going into secondary school, I started sort of like knocking off sort of like the toys and within then. So sort of like 10, 11, sort of like really
Yeah,
started getting into other things. Um, and then obviously sort of like after school, I went to college and sort of uni and I was into other things then,
yeah,
sort of I was a young adult, sort of enjoying myself. And then it was when I got back into sort of my early 30s, really, sort of like I was a bit more settled with work, a bit more to say. And I started sort of like just having a few regrets over selling things, sort of like when
yeah,
I was younger. And that's what got me sort of like back into collecting. And I started collecting sort of like the vintage at first. And then a bit later on, I discovered um, the new sort of articulated sort of like figures.
yeah,
And I mean, my mind was sort of like just absolutely blown, sort of like at the time. So I remember, strange enough, I mentioned sort of like the Gammy Guard. Oh, I won't get one.
yeah.
But the Gamorrean Guard TVC is still the first TVC figure I bought, and still is one of, if not my favourite, sort of like
It is a
figure.
fantastic figure, isn't it?
It's
Absolute fantastic figure.
it's a little work of art. It's just absolutely superb. I think I've got about 12 of them.
Oh
I've got
wow.
a bit of a problem. I just can't stop myself.
Yeah,
I just love those figures so
they are
much.
great figures. They really are.
But at that time as well, there wasn't just vintage collection. There was the Saga, the Legacy collection, and at
Yeah,
that particular time, and sort of like nearly sort of what 20 years ago, on eBay, they weren't that expensive.
No, I
So
know.
I
I
was
know.
going and I was buying up all sort of like those legacy collections. So I've nearly sort of got sort of like full Cantina aliens, Jabba's aliens nearly. I'm missing Ula and that droid. Um, I mean, some of them were starting to get a bit expensive, but
Yeah.
I just sort of just gobbled them all up basically because I
Yeah.
kind of thought they're going to be more expensive, so
I
get
mean,
have to get
are they
two.
loose or are they
Yeah,
or have you taken them out? They are loose. Yeah.
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 I've opened. I'm an opener, and there's some things that before I realised the value of some of the things. So like I've actually opened foil TVC cards without realising.
People watching this, I can hear
I
certain
know,
people. My God.
I
Yeah.
know. So yeah, I just don't. Yeah, I've held back recently with the ghost figures, the ghost crew. I haven't opened
Yeah.
those, but I'm
Yeah.
really tempted. I really want to open
Yeah.
those
No, no, no.
figures.
I'm mine away in a box. I want to get them sent off and get graded, the ghost figures. So with regards to your vintage, you know, your original 96, you know, you said you started collecting those again. I mean, because you said, was that out of of like a regret, like you say, of selling them
Yeah,
on, you wanted to get those back, and I suppose,
and
you know,
yeah, I kind of wanted to. It's a bit. I think me collecting them is sort of like just getting a bit of the childhood back again, and sort of
yeah,
like I miss those figures,
yeah.
and I like those figures, but they don't have the same sort of memories because they're not my original figures.
Do you know what? I was going to ask you that, and the reason being is because I can sit here and look at those 90, well, the original Kenner figures, and go, I love those figures. They look absolutely fantastic. Wow, but they're not mine.
No,
Do you know what I
and
mean? They're
that's
not
why.
my figures. Those were someone else's memories. I have the memories of playing with them, but those weren't mine as a
Yeah,
kid. Although I'm attached to them, and I would never part with them, it doesn't. But then again, when I look at my Motu figures that my dad found in the loft and almost chucked out down the tip a year or so ago, I look at those and go, I played with those as a kid. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
And it brings such a, and it's really weird how a toy can do that,
yeah.
or a figure can do that, or whatever. Do you know?
I It
It's
is, and
interesting.
unfortunately, I don't have that many sort of like of childhood toys left. I've got a few, like I've got the
Yeah,
dagger from Battlestar Galactica and a few other sort of bits. The occasional Smurf figure. Well, yeah, I had some small Smurf figures
yeah,
as a small child, but that's it. And that's why my vintage collection that I bought, the old vintage, they're all in a tub. So, and I don't have them out on display
no,
because it's there's something about I'm quite glad I've got them, but I don't have to see them. It's just knowing that I've got them.
yeah,
That is sort of
yeah.
like it just puts my mind at ease. Whereas this newer stuff, that's all out on display because that actually feels like mine because
Yeah, no,
I've
no,
bought all of
I
them.
get that.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, originally I was gonna be collecting like original 80s stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's like all the 80s toy lines, and then obviously COVID kicked in, and we all like were shut down, and so you're spending time on the internet and you're watching all these figure reviews, and I was like, wow, I didn't realize this existed. I didn't realize that existed, and I was like, I like this, I like that, and it just one thing led to another, and
mm,
now it's predominantly all modern stuff. I mean, I do have like some vintage Motu. I've got some vintage Star Wars, but everything else, and a little bit of
yeah,
vintage GI Joe, but everything else now is predominantly all
yeah.
modern, and that's sort of like taking, I'd say, pride and place. It's taken the display space up, and what have you.
I think collectors go down different routes. They sort of because I watched my brother do this. He collected everything, sort of like when later in life. So
Yeah,
when we started getting back into collecting again, he was just collecting this, that, and the other all over the place. Whereas I kind of didn't fall into that trap. I kind of stayed quite focused from the start. Right, it's going to be Star Wars, and I branched off into a few other things.
yeah,
I don't know if I'm jumping ahead to another question, but I there was a few years ago they did the 3 3/4 inch GI Joe figures, and they
yeah,
started re-releasing some of those. And
yep,
I got all the Cobra ones. I didn't care about the GI Joe ones. I
yeah,
just
yeah,
wanted the Cobra ones.
yeah.
So I got those, and then they stopped doing it. And I was like, actually,
Yeah, do you know what?
I would have
Yeah,
kept on
yeah,
buying those.
yeah. That
Uh,
annoyed me. That annoyed me because I went in for the HasLab GI Joe Sky Striker, which was the 3 3/4 inch and stuff like that, and I got that thinking that yes, they're going to be continuing this line, and we're going to be having more of this line going forward. That was it. They stopped it, and I was like, "Well, what was the point of me buying that?" You know what I mean? I don't regret buying it because I wanted it at the time because I like GI Joe. I
Yeah.
love the Sky Striker. I had it as a kid, so and that kind of really is like, oh wow, that really sort of like wound me up. So, but and not only that, I think the cost of a lot of the vintage stuff now is getting really expensive.
It's just
It's
stupid prices for some of the stuff. But then
yeah,
there is part of me that kind of thing because I'm attached to it and I like to know that it's there. There is also a little part of me that kind of thinks actually if I did want to sell it at some point, um, I don't think I'd be
ooh,
too upset about it this time.
yeah.
That's the
No,
vintage stuff. I wouldn't sell the modern stuff.
yeah,
It's
no. I mean, I keep think. I mean, I have come close to wanting to move on my last 17 figures, what I have of them, because I just know there's no way at this moment in time I'm going to be able to afford getting the rest of the figures to complete the 96. I would love to, but I can't justify spending 600 quid on like a little R2D2 with pop up lightsaber. I'm like, nah, you're
that's
all
one
right.
I'm missing as well.
Is
That's the
it?
one
Yeah,
yeah, I'm missing that
yeah.
one as well.
Well, good luck with that.
But
Good luck with that.
this, I mean, there's certain things sort of like, yeah, I spend sort of like money by sort of like buying those things, but at some point, I'm not. I mean, my eyesight's going now,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
and
Yep.
there's kind of things sort of like actually in like 20 years time there's part of me that's kind of thinking actually I'm not going to enjoy the stuff sort of like perhaps like I used to sort of like so maybe but anyway maybe not. I've never sold other than all my childhood toys. I've never sold
Yeah.
anything else, never sold a single thing of my collection. I once tried to put something on eBay and I backed out because I was just like, no, I just couldn't bring myself to do
Couldn't
it.
do it.
I
Couldn't
just
do
can't.
it.
I give
Wow.
stuff away. I just don't sell it.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's yeah. Um, Other than Star Wars, what other toy line would you throw yourself into?
Right. So I am going down a bit of a rabbit hole at the moment. So and that's with Transformers. Um,
Okay.
so I did have a few of the Transformers as a kid,
Yep.
and then a few years ago, Transformers they did sort of like the masterpiece line, sort of like the
Yep.
large figures, and
Yep.
I started really sort of like getting into sort of like masterpiece Transformers. They're all packed away now because I just got no room. They're just so big. I mean, that's an issue that I'm facing sort of as a collector now. Is I'm
Yeah.
in one small room. I'm in a small little old cottage, sort of like, and I've only got a small amount of space, and I just couldn't sort of like a fourth space. So they're all packed away. I probably will sell those at some point.
Yeah.
Um, but my way around it has been recently, my new rabbit hole has been Magic Square Toys, which
Okay.
is a Chinese company and they're much, much, much smaller. There we go. And that just arrived
Let's have a look.
yesterday.
Let's.
So,
Oh, okay. Are
so
they like? Is that? They look like the YOLO Park ones, the small YOLO Park ones.
well, the thing is that the scale of it is even smaller than the original sort of they're almost sort of like 3 3/4 inch sort of like
Yeah.
scale. So I can get sort of like quite a few on a shelf.
Yeah.
So I'm quite chuffed with that. But I'm
Yeah.
working my way through sort of like just generation one Autobots and Decepticons at the moment. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
yeah. Well, I so do you know the Super 7 reaction figures
Yeah,
on the cards and stuff like that? So I've got a few of those, and I'm only want to because I mean they do different waves and stuff like that, but I only want to collect wave one. I've got one more left to get from wave one, and I've got the complete collection, and I'll be happy. I'll be happy with that, and then there might be a couple more that I might see. It goes, okay, yeah, they're G1. I remember those as a kid. I get those, but yeah, I mean, well, I like see as a kid I only had Jazz, and that was it. That was
yeah.
it.
I remember
And
having
that was the
jazz.
only transformer that I had. But just recently, I've sort of like got the YOLO Park ones. They don't transform. That's all right. I quite like them in robot mode. They light up. They've got they look
That's
great.
this is what I love about Magic Square because I'm like shabby, where I can't transform them. When I got the masterpieces, they used to come in the vehicle modes, and
Yeah,
I'd
yeah,
find a YouTube video to talk me through. And I'd be there all evening just trying to transform the thing. And these things, because they're much smaller, I've got no chance with my eyesight
yeah,
now. They're
As a
becoming
kid,
robot
you
mode.
used to be able to do it just like that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
How weird's that? Yeah,
And
yeah, like a Rubik's cube, and
now
all of a
it's
sudden
just
you
sort
got
of
a
like it's got
car.
a magnifying glass, and I'm sort of like, just go there, and I'm just
Yeah,
yeah, I ain't
yeah.
got the patience
But
for it now.
I like Transformers. I do. I mean, I've got a modest collection. Um, I might expand on it a little bit. You never know, because there's a couple more YOLO Park ones that are going to be coming out soon, which would like to get at some point. But I like the Studio 86 line. I think that's pretty cool. I like those.
I mean,
The
they're a
G1
nice line.
versions.
Yeah, I mean, I actually quite like that Red series that they did to start with. I they didn't transform. It was Megatron, Soundwave, and Prime, and I
Yeah.
thought actually, yeah, if they continue doing this,
Which one was
but
that? The
then
RVD ones?
yeah, the RED ones.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
I mean, I actually really, because I like the toon sort of like cartoon sort of like versions
yeah,
of figures,
yeah,
which is why I like Magic Specs. They're more sort of cartoon version. But then they just ruined the scale. So I was just like, yeah, no,
yeah,
I'm not
yeah. They
interested
did,
now.
didn't they? I mean,
So
as much as I love Bumblebee, and I think those look absolutely fantastic. But why did they do Bumblebee at the same scale as Prime and Megatron and Starscream?
it just makes no
I
sense.
was like, why? It's such a shame. But there
Yeah.
you are.
So
Never mind. Never mind. So Transformers. Then I'm liking that, and I've got to say I'm quite surprised by that, because I thought you might have gone down the line of like Action Force or GI Joe or whatever. But
well,
Transformers, yeah, no, pretty
a
cool.
bit of GI Joe, but I was quite
Yeah,
liked Cobra, and because they just, when I was watching the cartoon as a child, I just remember thinking to myself, how are you still about? How have you got so much money to pay for all these things, and you're just useless? It's like,
yeah, 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 yeah,
but I
yeah.
just I
No,
liked
the
the look
things you
of
think
it.
of as a kid. I mean, I never used to
Yeah,
think that. I was like, oh, I don't know. I was just so into it. I was engrossed in the cartoon. I love the
mm,
cartoon. I didn't have many of the toys as a kid, but yeah, it was all good. Do you have a sentimental or prized piece within your collection? Piece within your
peace.
collection?
Um, I think it's going to be that thing behind me, the
The
barge.
sail barge.
Yeah, when I was
Yeah.
a kid with Star Wars, to me that sail barge sort of like represents that whole dream sort of like item that you kind of
Yes.
wanted as a kid.
Mm,
Because I remember as a kid, I really really wanted the sail barge, and I remember trying to make my own sail barge, and it was a complete disaster. But I still liked it anyway.
yeah.
And I always wanted sort of like the sail barge. And when they
Yeah.
announced that, I was just like over the moon. And I remember panicking because it wasn't available in the UK.
No, that's it. That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
And but I managed to get mine, even though his name is Mud Dark Side Toys. I managed to get mine through Dark Side Toys because he started taking orders and then he stopped. And so I managed to get mine through him. So I managed to get the little booklet and everything as well, sort of
Yeah.
like, which I was quite chuffed about. So, and then of course they did the eBay auction as well. So, which I
Yeah.
think
Because I think quite a
worked
few
out
people
better.
from the UK got it on the eBay, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
which I'm
See,
glad.
I see. I heard that they were going to be doing this funding for the sail barge. I didn't think anything of it, to be honest with you. I wasn't really sort of, although I was into collecting, I was like just wanted to get the figures and the original 96 figures. Oh boy, when I saw it, I was like, wow, this is phenomenal. During 2020, I was watching, reviews on it. So I was watching people like Tim from Boss Bounty. I was watching Nick Only One Kenobi. I was watching
Yeah.
their reviews and I was going, wow, wow. And I don't know if you know the story, but I ended up getting one.
Hmm.
And yeah, I got it from the States. I got it on eBay from the States, secondary market, inflated prices and all that sort of stuff. So I
Shipping and
paid
import.
a pretty penny. So, and that was just for the, paying for it outright. And then of course I was like, yep, I get that, did that. And then it come up with the shipping and the import tax as well. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's an extra 100 quid. I remember with the
It,
eBay stuff,
it was,
yeah.
no, it wasn't an extra 100 quid,
Oh, was
not
it
for
a bit more
shipping.
than that?
No, just
Oh,
a little bit more. Yeah.
it was 100 for shipping and well, more than 100 for shipping, and then because I remember with eBay, it was around about 100 for shipping, and then there was about another 100 for import
Yeah,
tax.
no,
It
it
was a
was
lot.
it was it was a it was a fair bit of money. Let's put it that way. It wasn't, it
Mm,
was a pretty penny,
but
and
do you
I
like?
remember it turning up. Did I what?
Do you value it though? Was it worth it?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I do, I do, I do. I yeah, it's a fantastic display piece. It really
Yeah,
is
it is.
absolutely awesome. I've got the figure that come with it. I've got him graded. But yeah, I
I'm
just
glad.
remember it turning up and my dad was like, "What the hell is that?" Sort of thing. Then Georgie come round my mum and dad's to pick it up because I used to have the mail dropped off at them and they were getting sick and tired of it because every day there was like a box parcel turning up and stuff like that. And I just, okay,
Mm,
because I wasn't in work and stuff like that. So I got it all changed. But I remember bringing it home and Georgie was just like,
I,
but she likes it now.
when that arrived, I mean, it's sort of like it was big, but then when the ghost arrived, I
Oh.
looked at the size of that box and I thought, I've got to get that upstairs. And I actually thought, this might actually kill me trying to get this up the stairs.
It's a
'Cause I
big
live in
box,
an
isn't it?
old
And
house,
people don't
narrow
realise, do they?
stairs, steep
Yeah.
stairs, and I literally had to roll that thing up the stairs to get up
Wow,
there. And I was
wow.
thinking,
Because it
please
was
don't
fairly
break, please
weighty as
don't
well, wasn't
break.
it? It was
It
fairly
was
weighty.
heavy. It was
Yeah,
heavy.
yeah.
And I look at people who bought several of those things, and I was just thinking, nah. Now with that, sorry, I'm going off tangent, but I mean, I
No.
like the Razor Crest. It's all right. It's fine. I like the Ghost, and I have ordered the Cantina. Although I'm now thinking, I don't know where I'm going to put the Cantina.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
really, really struggling sort of with that. And now getting to the point with my collection, I'm thinking I've had a big old move around, and I'm going to have a bit more space. Um, but I'm getting to the point where I just haven't got room for anything
No,
anymore.
that's it. I mean,
My
I think with HasLab, my personal opinion on HasLab, and again, we're just going off topic slightly here, but as we're talking about it, I don't think they should be doing one a year. I don't
no,
think they should be doing one a year because people are going to get sick and tired of it. They get, they're big, they're expensive. Some people don't have the funds to
mm,
get one once a year. Some people don't have the space to get one once a year. And like you say, there's loads of people getting 4 or 5 of these, you know, ghost ship. I mean, it's huge. The packaging is the box is massive. It really
but
is
not only
big.
that, one of the things I like about Star Wars is you have a range of figures you can use with vehicles. So that with the sail barge, we already had a range of TVC figures we could use with it.
Yeah,
With
yeah.
some of the stuff that's coming out now, we haven't got those figures. So,
Well, I
well,
think with the Razor Crest, I mean, crikey, it's nothing but Mandalorian figures, isn't it? Really,
yeah,
because
that's true.
they've sort of like flooded the market with the Mandalorian. But I see what you mean with regards to the Ghost, because we didn't have the figures at the time. I mean, 4 of them come with the Ghost itself as an
Yeah,
exclusive, you know, uh, and again, it's the same with the Cantina. I mean, a lot of people have got the Cantina aliens, but not within the TVC line. So,
no, for
and now
people
those
sort of
figures are
like
going to be going up.
those figures are going to be worth, and they've already started going up on eBay. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I feel sorry for those people, but anyway,
Yeah,
anyway.
never mind, never mind. Do you have eh, what did I do? Oh yeah, it was the sail barge. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because we went so far off. What's it? I forgot it was the sail
Yeah,
barge. Yeah.
sorry.
Do you have a Grail piece that you would like to add to your collection? And when I say Grail piece, I don't necessarily mean the most expensive thing in the world. It could be something that you've seen and you went to get it and you didn't get it at the time and
No, I
regret it.
kind of know this one actually,
Yeah.
and I saw one at Echo, and it was lovely seeing it again after all
Go on.
these years. It was the Palatoy Death Star, the cardboard
Oh,
one.
okay. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I mean, I was lucky I had that as a kid. I had so much playtime with that as a kid. A lot of my sort of like playtime with figures used to center around that Death Star to the
Yeah.
point where I used to have to sellotape bits back together because like the trash compactor door had sort of like come off and sort of stuff
Yeah.
like that. I mean, I wouldn't have room for it really, sort of like that. I would love to own that again.
Yeah.
But it's an absolute fortune, sort of like, and actually, I just
The
can't
thing is as well,
justify
if
it.
you want to pay that much money, you want to make sure it's absolutely mint condition or as
Yeah,
best condition as it can be and it's complete. Because I mean, I know there's a lot of stuff that you see that isn't quite and you think, "Ooh, you're asking a lot of money for that," and it's not either complete or it's in a bit of a
yeah.
beat up way. But yeah, I mean, I again, the Death Star, the Palatoy one as a kid, never ever saw that in the shops. Never saw that in the
I'm
shops.
not sure how I got mine. But then my parents would have got it for me, so
Yeah,
I doubt they'll
yeah.
remember now if I ask them. But
Yeah. Um, If you could go to any convention in the world, which one would it be and why?
Hmm. I You hear a lot about San Diego Comic Con,
Mm,
for sort of what reveals and sort of like it's just so massive.
yeah.
I'd quite like that one. Having said that, though, I would have loved to have gone to Celebration in Japan. Sort
Oh,
of
yeah.
like
That's
it's
this year. That's this year, isn't it?
it's a
That's
couple
this
of
year. Yeah.
months. I
Crikey.
know.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would love that. But to be honest, I don't know. There's certain sort of like conventions. I mean, I'm glad I've done Echo. I'm actually going to Sandown next weekend.
Yes.
Uh,
I'll see you there. Yeah. Yeah.
so see you there, and I'm going to NEC for the first time, sort of like shortly
Oh, okay.
after
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well.
In
So
April.
yeah, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
going in
Cool.
April.
Cool.
So so I'm now sort of like getting into that thing, and I've been to a lot of London Comic Cons. I used to go to the ones in Olympia quite often,
Yes. Yeah. Olympia.
but
Yeah.
now I'm actually preferring the MCM ones in Excel. They seem to be a bit
Yeah.
better. Um, but I think probably San Diego Comic Con. I've been to two celebrations now. The first one was absolutely brilliant.
Which one was
Um,
that?
that was the one in 2016.
Yep. Oh,
The
we
first
went to
one
that
I
one as
went
well.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Myself and Georgia. That was our first one. Yep.
I know. So, because my photo with Carrie Fisher, she's wearing the same outfit as the picture that Georgie showed when she had her photo.
Oh,
So
okay.
we must have had that done on the same
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, and I absolutely meeting Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher was just it was amazing.
Do you know
I loved it.
it's we bemoan paying the amount of money that some of these people are asking for like a signature or an not an autograph, a photograph. But when it come to Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill at that time in 2016, I was like, I don't care.
No,
These are characters that I've grown up with for the best part of my life.
yeah,
They're right there. There's no way in hell that I'm not gonna get an autograph and get a
yeah,
photograph with them. And I'm glad I did. I mean, Mark Hamill's turned into a bit of a numpty of late, but there you go. But I'll put that down to old age. But other than that, Carrie Fisher was absolutely incredible to
Carrie
me.
Fisher.
She really was.
I read most of her books. She
Yeah,
was a funny, smart woman,
she is. Yeah,
um,
yeah,
and she's very well observed, sort of like about lots of things around
yeah,
sort of negative sort of like things that some people would say as well. And she sort of like she just turned negative stuff into sort of positive stuff. I
yeah,
admired that in
yeah,
her. I didn't
yeah.
know her, but you know, I thought she was a superb individual. So
But the thing is, when you had your photograph taken with her, I mean, I don't know how it was for you, but when I had my photograph, all she did was just cling on to me and give me a big hug.
yeah, I
And I
was
was like,
actually
"This is Princess Leia." And I
I
was
was
like,
actually
"Come
surprised
on."
because normally I kind of sort of like I like I want to respect your space and everything, and she
Yeah,
just got
yeah.
right in there, and I was just
Yeah,
like, okay.
exactly. And I was like,
So she put her
"Whoa."
face up against mine, and I was just like,
Oh,
okay, it's starting
no.
to make me feel a bit uncomfortable now.
Oh,
But it
no.
was,
I loved it. I was like,
yeah,
so and then Georgie obviously had her photograph taken as well, and the and it was just like, wow. It was like Mark Hamill was a little bit different. He wasn't quite as what's it because he was sat down and whatever. I just put my arm around him and I just said, thank you very much. I said, this does mean a lot. Thank you and
yeah,
stuff like that. But yeah, they say don't meet your heroes. But some of them I think have been absolutely top notch.
yeah. I mean,
Absolutely
I've
top
done
notch.
quite a few of the autographs and things now.
Yeah,
Some of them, I know I'm taking this off topic again. I apologise.
that's okay. Not a problem.
But I wasn't into it at first. I just kind of
No,
thought,
yeah,
what's the point of doing this? It's sort of like, but actually, it's some of it is just having a brief conversation,
yeah.
sort of like with the people. I remember the guy who played Faramir out of Lord of the Rings. God, his name
Oh,
now.
yes, yes. I know who you mean, but I can't remember his name. Yep.
I was chatting to him and I was sort of like, he was sort of asking where I come from. And I was complaining about the distance that I'd sort of travelled up in the morning.
Is
I
it
was looking
David
through the
someone?
road. Yeah, it'll come to me in a minute.
Yeah.
And I said, after I walked away, I thought, he's just come from like Australia. And I was just been reading this from coming
Yeah.
up from Kent.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but it's fun. It's
It
fun.
it
And
is.
me,
It is.
so I
I
mean,
mean,
and
the
I'm actually sometimes now I'm actually getting figures signed. So as you will discover
yes.
for something coming up, I've got Katie Sackhoff to sign a Bo Katan figure. which
Oh
was quite
wow.
nice.
Oh
So
wow. Is that that's a signed figure?
that's a signed figure. Yeah,
Oh,
the
okay. Well,
photo I
that's
sent
not
you.
that. Yeah, I didn't see the signature. Come on, you know what my eyes are like, Andy. For
Yeah,
goodness
that's
sake,
true.
there's no chance.
I know. I'm wearing my bloody glasses tonight.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Oh wow. Okay. Well, that puts a whole different ball game on that. Then that's Yeah,
It's
yeah.
strange enough actually because I'm thinking of going to Echo, and I've just ordered Admiral Piet figure because
Have you?
he's
Oh, point.
going.
Good point. Yeah, yeah.
He's
He's going again.
going.
Yeah.
So
Ken
I
Cowley. Yeah,
thought I
yeah,
might try and get him to sign that.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I mean, crikey, the first person I met was Ray Park down at Sandown Park. Ray Park and Jerome Flynn, who played Rune Heiko and Masamida and stuff like that. And you know, that really got me into getting autographs and having my pictures taken. And those were kind of the days when they were quite affordable, 20 quid.
yeah,
There you go, mate. Have 40 quid and I get 2 signatures and blah, blah, blah. And then I remember going to my first MCM, which was at Docklands, not Docklands. Where is it? Oh my
Excel.
God. Excel,
Oh,
that's it.
mm.
And Patrick Stewart was there and Leonard Nimoy was there. And they were wanting £80. And I was like, no chance. No way. How dare they ask for that amount of money? Oh, what a regret.
Yeah,
I wish that I'd have just gone 80 quid, bargain, and gone for it. And then another person that I really wish that I would have gone and spoken to, and that was Gary Kurtz. He was at London Olympia for the London Film at Comic Con. And I saw him sitting and I go, yeah, yeah. And I really wish I'd have gone to see him. And he was scheduled to go again a couple of years later. I thought, brilliant. I got there and, found out that he hadn't turned up due to illness, and then found out a few months later he'd passed away. And I was absolutely gutted. I was like, I would have loved to have spoken to him.
yeah.
Really would have
One
done.
of my regrets is was the guy who played Bosk. He was at a Comic Con, and I was going to get him to sign something. Strange enough, actually, I was going to get him to sign it to Tim, and I was going to send it
Okay.
to Tim for,
Yeah.
and I just couldn't do it. And then he passed away. So and
Oh,
Peter Mayhew, when I went to Celebration, I could have got him to sort of
yeah.
like just. It's not so much getting to sign, so it's just nice to meet. And this is
Yeah.
where I think it toys back to the toy, links back to the toys, because you build up a relationship with those characters, with those
Yeah.
toys as kids,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they become like representations of those characters
Yeah.
on
Absolutely.
screen. So
Absolutely.
you're kind of like meeting your childhood heroes in
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
ways. But
I mean, I've met people from different franchises, people from like 24, from Battlestar Galactica, different movies and stuff like that. And some of them are absolutely superb. They really are,
Amanda
what's his name?
Tapping was lovely from
Oh,
Battlestar. I
really?
met her. She
Oh,
was so nice, and I quite liked a series that she did called Sanctuary. And I remember saying to her, I said, "Oh, your English accent's really, really good in Sanctuary." I thought, I think I was paying her a compliment. She went, "Well, it should be." She said, "I was born in England." I was like, oh.
oh, that is awesome. That is awesome. Do you remember a series called Gotham?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
but
it's the
the girl
Batman.
who
Yeah,
played I can't remember her name. She played oh my God. She was the loony girl with the blonde hair, and then she ended up owning the bar and the nightclub.
no, no.
She was Jim Gordon's girlfriend to start with. I
Oh,
cannot
okay,
remember. Barbara Keane. Barbara Keane.
yeah.
What the actress who played her? We met her down in at a Comic Con in Telford. So we're talking, and she was talking English, and I was like, oh, you're English. And she goes, well, no, I'm Welsh. And I was like, oh, right, okay. And she goes, well, what's the matter with Welsh? And I was like, oh my God, no, nothing's wrong. And she was creased up, but I did not realise she was English or Welsh from the UK. Incredible. And it's the same with Jamie Bamber as well. You hear him in
Yeah,
Battlestar Galactica, and he's got this American accent, and you see him in real life, and he's like, hello. And what? Do you know what I mean? It's so weird, isn't it?
it
Really
is
weird.
actually. It's quite nice meeting them though, and I suppose
It
this
is.
actually. We're not going off topic because I am starting to collect autographs, so it's a new thing that I'm collecting. So
Well, yeah,
I've actually framed quite a few of them now, so they're going to
yeah.
be going up in the wall, up on the wall.
Do you
Um,
have do you have PGM's autograph?
I don't, I don't. There's a little gap on the wall of where it should be. A little
So I'm
tiny
not going to
gap.
take a drink as I'm yeah. But yeah, no, bless him, bless him. Yeah, we've supported him, so that's
I
pretty
had
cool.
I have seen him when I said he's involved in it. I did actually go back and watch that scene, and it's like, yep, he's there. You
He's
can
there.
see
He
it,
is. It's
clear
like
as
really
day.
weird. He's just
Clear
got
as
one of those faces that I remember seeing that face and thinking that's a face. You know, when I first watched it, because he's very distinct, isn't he? Bless his
yeah.
cotton socks. But yeah. Um, moving on. What inspired you to start your own channel?
Ooh, I don't know really, because I think I kind of been on YouTube for sort of like quite a few years, and I was always sort of commenting on other people's sort of videos, and I was always sort of there in the background. And my own channel, I mean, it's like not even 60 subscribers, but I just kind of like I have a few sort of like collection videos, and then I decided, okay, I'm going to try and do something a bit different because I think in some ways you've got to put yourself out there a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I started sort of like just trying doing these little comic strips and sort of like things like that, and I'm using the figures and using some of the diorama backgrounds that I've sort of like done. And the stories are rubbish, but then I just kind of think, well, actually, they just reminded me of like that pulp sort of comedy, sort of comic type approach that I remember
Yeah.
as a kid. So it's a bit of a nostalgia sort of like exercise. Um, but I just kind of thought, everyone else is sort of doing it, and I wanted to put myself sort of like out there as well. But
Yeah.
I know I'm not gonna sort of like get huge stuff because it's kind of a niche within a niche. And
But I
actually, I
mean,
will tell you,
you know,
my last video,
with
I will just tell you this. It got 60 odd views. I was happy. Normally, my videos they get 2 or 3 likes. I was happy. I didn't get any likes, and I got one dislike. My first dislike.
wow.
So I got negative likes. It was quite
Wow.
a sobering moment.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. But you do your own dioramas and stuff like that. So would you not contemplate filming you doing, over a course of time doing these dioramas and stuff like that? Because I mean that that's I like that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? It's just
Strangely enough,
seeing how
actually,
people do their dioramas and stuff.
I was actually thinking of doing a video of how to, because I've got a little indoor display with sort of like
Yeah.
trees that I
Yeah.
made from poster tubes or Pringle tubes, empty
Yeah.
Pringle tubes, and I just cover with clay and sort of like paint them up and sort of like add all the ridges in it and everything. And I was thinking I might do a video on that, sort of like how to do that, because actually it just takes a bit of time and not much skill to do, to be quite honest. If it did, I wouldn't be doing it. Um, but I'm okay with sort of natural or sort of like rough environments. When it comes to something that's sort of like corridors and stuff, I can't do. I just haven't got the sort of the details sort of like to be able to do that. But
Really.
fortunately, people
Yeah.
like Ian Butler 3D does his sort of like 3D printing, so I'm like,
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah, but the thing is, he's not actually physically building it, is he? He's getting like a program and some,
That's true. Now, for
you know,
example, the diorama,
nothing
the
against
first
Ian Butler, doing a good job.
no,
You know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? I just want to,
I've got one of
yeah,
his printouts for an Imperial console that I'm going to be painting up this weekend. But my
yeah,
first diorama I ever built was Jabba's Palace, and I mean it's warping and it's sort of like not great, and some of the
yeah,
details not there. But I loved it because it fit completely on my shelf. It fitted my Jabba, all my figures in, and everything, and it was all. It reminded me sort of like of the scene. And then of course Hasbro released their own Jabba's Palace and it
yeah.
introduced that
Always the
set.
way, innit?
Yeah, and I took it off. I took the diorama I did. So okay, maybe it's time to play it, and I changed over. And you know what? I left it there for about a month, and then I changed it back over. I did the one that I did. I put it back, and now the one that Hasbro got is somewhere else, and I've actually got it. It's Boba Fett in there. I preferred the one that I did. It's imperfect, but it fitted. I made it
Yeah,
precisely to the way that I wanted it.
yeah.
So
No, fair enough. Fair
yeah,
enough.
sometimes
And
it doesn't
again,
have to.
like I say, it would be great because I like watching those videos where people are being creative and setting up their own dioramas and even when it's doing like certain customs and stuff like that, I find it quite interesting to watch someone do a custom and think, oh, okay, yeah, that's not a bad idea. I might give it a go. But
Do you know one of the easiest customs? Because I've done a few customs, and one of them was because I thought actually I've got loads of Admiral Akbars, but I need a Moncal officer,
Yeah.
And I just got the right sort of like creams and sort of like yellows and sort of a little bit of green and sort
Mm.
of like painted in the figure. And now I've got some officers sort of like to go
Yeah, no, no, it's
wherever.
cool.
And
But
I
things
quite
like
like
that
doing
will be
stuff like
good
that.
good content for your channel.
Yeah, I might try that. But to be honest, it's just a bit of a diversion. It's sort of like a bit of fun. It's sort of like
Yeah.
I'm never expecting to sort of like I don't, and actually I don't want huge stuff. Martin always sort of like says you never promote your channel, and it's like no, because it's I just put it out there. If people want to watch it, they do. If they don't,
That's exactly how
they
it is.
don't.
That's exactly how I am. If people want to watch, they watch. If they
Yeah,
don't, they don't. I'm doing it because I like having these conversations. I find them really interesting and enlightening to listen to people how they do, well, how they go about collecting, what got them into collecting and stuff like that. And then of course you know do some certain live streams about certain topics and quizzes because I who like you don't like a quiz, you know. So yeah. I mean, again, I don't ever envisage being the biggest channel. I don't ever claim to be the biggest channel. I don't claim to be the best channel. Am I perfect? No, I'm not. But do you know what? I enjoy doing it, and I think that's
fun.
the most important thing. Yeah, it is about the fun.
It's, yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
it's just a bit of fun.
Yeah,
So that's it. But a lot of the times when I've done dioramas and stuff, it's just to display the figures. I did a Jedi
yeah,
sort of like temple one, and I just wanted to make an old sort of like temple type feel, and I wanted steps so that I could display the figures in different
yeah,
heights, so I could actually see the figures.
yeah,
So
yeah,
and
no,
actually use
definitely.
the inspiration from Fallen Jedi for that one. So, oh, and the other
Yeah.
custom I did was a Wampa, painted it brown, jungle Wampa from the Fallen Jedi sort of like series.
Oh,
Sometimes
okay.
it's just like really sort of like simple stuff,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
anyway, I enjoy it. I kind of sort of like it's my version of sort of like modern, you know, those model railways, sort of like you're making
yeah,
sort of like it's kind of my version of that, except I'm
yeah.
making sort of like cantinas and bars and undergrounds and things like that. So,
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with it. I like the
mm,
creativity. I love that sort of stuff, whether it's photography or whether it's building your dioramas or whether it's like you say, just as simple as doing a custom, you know.
yeah,
So I don't have the patience. I will be revisiting a couple of customs further down the line. So that's all I'm going to say on that. I've got another couple of questions for you. What gives you that toy collecting buzz?
so for me, I mean, it's new figures. So like today, I had a parcel delivered, and this arrived
Oh,
today. So
oh, go on, get it back up there.
I opened it up straight away, and and
That is.
this brings back so many memories.
How did you get
It's
the bubble off? I mean, what have you done there? Is that have you just cut around the bubble?
Yeah, exacto
Oh,
knife,
okay.
just a
Yeah.
craft knife,
Yeah.
just go round it, and
Yeah.
I
Oh,
love
sorry.
this. Oh, that's all right. I absolutely love this figure. I
He
mean, the
looks
face
great, doesn't
sculpt
he?
isn't quite there, but it's close enough.
Yeah.
Close enough. It looks more like Mark Hamill from Star Wars than Mark Hamill in a holiday special.
Yeah.
Let's
Oh God.
put it like
Yeah.
that.
Jesus. Well, we don't talk about that, but yeah. No,
Um,
mine hopefully has turned up, and I need to get round to opening it. But yeah,
but it's getting those figures and stuff, especially a new figure, and it's that initial sort of like opening it up. Um, and sometimes I don't have that many sort of like things that I kind of think actually this is like a holy grail for me to sort of like to hunt down because I've got a
yeah,
lot of that stuff now. And but there is a few things sort of like I like going sort of like trying to have a search on sort of eBay finding something. Oh, that's actually quite sort of like, but a lot of
yeah.
it tends to be sort of either customs or sort of like printed stuff that I'm buying now to add to the worlds that I'm building.
Mm,
So
mm. And you say you're kind of like new to going to the toy fairs and stuff like that because you've been to like big conventions and stuff. So, the ones that you've been to, do you sort of like prefer going out and seeing stuff with your own eyes and getting a feel for it and seeing it, or are you quite happy getting stuff offline?
I'll be honest, it's sort of like a bit of both. I like ordering stuff offline,
Mm,
sort of, and it coming through sort of like a wave of figures. I'll order that online and sort of Star Action in demand. Shouldn't advertise, or maybe I should. They'll send it through, and
yeah.
it's usually in pretty good nick. Um, there's not many places that sell sort of vintage collection, which is what I primarily sort of like collect now. But it is nice going out to the toy fairs as well, to sort of like to actually see stuff and sort of out on and just chatting to the people that are selling the stuff as well, because they tend to
Yeah,
be sort
yeah.
of like really good fans. But most of all, it's because I've now started sort of like just making friends and sort of like the collecting
But I
community
mean,
and just
the
getting
thing
to
is,
know
you've been part
people.
of the community for a long time.
Yeah,
As in, you've always been in the chat, and you've gone to these like conventions and stuff like that. So
I just didn't really know anyone. So, and
no, that's
I, I, I'm not necessarily sort of like shy. I'm just sort of kind of just don't really put myself out there all that
so you
much.
could have been walking around a convention, for example, and you could have seen someone and gone, oh, 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 and then just like that, and just walked away. Do you know what I mean? And
Well, I wouldn't have hidden, but I I'm also, like I say, I'm a bit blind without glasses, so
okay.
sometimes, and I just walk around in a trance half the time. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's sort of
Well,
like
again, I
that.
put that
So
down to old age. I did the same thing. So yeah, no shame in that. No shame in that. But I've got to say, it really was an absolute pleasure meeting you for the first time at Echo last year. It really was. I mean,
ditto.
you know, and you know, really glad that you're going to be going to Sandown and NEC. So we, you know, we get to see more of you. And I just think overall, it adds such a different dimension going to these things like the conventions and stuff like that and toy fairs where you know people and what have you, because it just adds, like I say, it just adds that extra bit to it. Whereas before, we used to enjoy going to the, you know, toy fairs and stuff like that. We didn't really know anybody. We said hello to a few of the
Yeah.
usual suspects, as in like the sellers and stuff like that, and the vendors, but we didn't really know anybody within the community. And then we, you know, like I say, it's brilliant. It is, you know,
Well, I mean, I kept my collecting secret from a lot of people. There's still friends I have now who don't
see
know
that,
that I
yeah,
sort of like
yeah,
collect
yeah,
toys. And I remember there was one day I was on a work call and my office is in here, but I blur out the background. And Teams did an update and took out the blur, and then everyone in the office went, "What's that behind you?" And I was like, "Oh no!" But actually, they're all cool about it, and it's like, "Oh yeah, we collect some sort of like bits and pieces too." But it's nice to
yeah,
sort of like to it's that kind of that sense of community. It's like actually, it's okay to be a middle-aged
yeah,
man collecting toys.
yeah.
It's like it's we all enjoy it. So
Yeah, well, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I would say I was quite a shy collector. I mean, I'd collect, and obviously Georgie knew, and my parents knew, and you know, a couple of friends knew, but no one else really knew. And it was
mm,
only since I've been on YouTube, I thought, do you know what, sod it,
yeah,
I don't care. I'm proud of it. I love it. You know, it keeps me out of trouble. Well, it doesn't, because I get into trouble quite a bit with Georgie with the stuff that comes through. But you know, I can kind of deal with
mm,
that. But you know, it's really opened a lot of doors for me within the community. You know, the friends that you make, the, you know, the people that you talk to, the places that we can get to go now and stuff like that. You know, all the toy fairs and conventions and stuff like that, and going on other people's channels. I absolutely love it. And it wasn't that I was ashamed. I felt embarrassed about being a
yeah,
collector, but now, like I say, I don't care. I'm a collector. Who cares? The one thing I did not do though was tell people at work about my channel,
yeah,
and I kept that quiet. And yeah, one day, I did a video and someone commented and said, "Oh, maybe you should use this type of glue to keep your shelves in on the wall." And I was like, "Right, okay, yeah, okay, I know that glue. That's the glue that I use, or the bonding glue that I use at work." So I thought, well, obviously someone from work knows now. So I thought
mm,
that's okay. And I went in the next day, and there's a couple of people sniggering and stuff like that. And I said, "No, no, no, yeah, we just, you know." So I didn't think anything of it. And then I walked past my computer, and on the computer it had my YouTube name written on the computer, and I was like, so I double looked, and of course guys were watching, and I turned around and they were like, whatever. But when I turned back, they were like pissing themselves laughing. Then the next thing I happened was I walked past my computer again, and half my YouTube page was up on the web browser, and I was like, oh god. So I clicked it off and again looked round and stuff like that, and I said, look, I found out who it was, and I said, the reason I've not told anybody is because this is something that I do outside of work.
yeah,
It's separate. It's something I enjoy doing. And do you know what? They have been as good as gold. They really
yeah,
have. They've been
yeah.
as good as gold.
Honestly, they're fine. For work, Secret Santa now, I get Star Wars stuff.
Yeah,
It makes it
crikey.
easy. It makes it
There's
easy.
tea. There's
They don't,
tea.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, I'm quite, but I have to say, actually, I felt quite welcomed because I don't find it easy, sort of like to put myself out there.
Within the community.
Yeah,
Yeah, but why would you
actually,
not? I mean, you're a nice guy. You're pleasant to talk to. You're easygoing.
it's sort of like actually you and Georgie, sort of like Martin and Adam and Shabby, and sort of like everyone else that's sort of like out there. I mean, it's a really nice sort of like welcoming bunch. So I
Yeah.
suppose thank you.
No, you don't have to thank us. It's a pleasure having you part of the community. And again, that's why I like doing these kind of episodes and this series, because there are people that do collect, but they don't. I don't know. They don't. I wouldn't say they don't get involved. They don't like being on YouTube, or they don't like having their faces shown and stuff like that. And look at Des T as Scott Whitehouse. They were never on
Yeah,
YouTube, and now you can't get them off YouTube, can you? Really, to be
no,
honest with you, they're everywhere, aren't they? Which is
but
nothing wrong with that. Bless them. But
I kind of think sort of turning 50 was sort of like the kind of turning point for me. It was just like actually, who
yeah,
cares?
exactly.
Get
Do you know what I
yourself
mean?
out there.
It's all good fun, and it's nice to have different people and new people in the community and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? That's what it's all about. We all collect, whether it be Star Wars, Motu, Transformers, whatever. We all have a passion. We all have a nostalgia for the 80s and stuff like that. And again, you've got like a lot of like younger generation that are part of it as well. And it's great to get everybody's perspective and views on collecting and stuff like that. So, you're a valued member of the community, mate. So don't ever think anything other than that. So you're welcome. Right. Last question. What does your collection mean to you?
I think it's part of my little bit of escape, sort of like because actually work sometimes can be quite heavy, and I like sort of like to be able to take my mind off stuff.
Yeah.
And it is the collecting. I have a bit of a oh,
Look at that. Well,
something
that
fell.
no, that was a
Don't
that
know
was a
what
good
that
pan
happened.
back. That was I like that.
um, but to me, it's sort of it's not just sort of like the collecting the figures. It's actually sort of creating the environments that figures go into as well. So and almost
Yeah.
that's almost as important as collecting the figures now for me. It's sort of like, okay, I've got these figures, I've got to create something. So right at the moment I've got loads of Ahsoka figures, and I've really planned out what I'm going to do for the Ahsoka display. So it's at the
Yeah.
bottom of the Night Sisters castle, some steps, and sort of like this is all stonework. I can do stonework, so and things like that. So that is sort of going to, but it is important. I know at the end of the day it's just bits of plastic, but it's more than that to me. It's memories to me. It's sort of like it's part of my childhood. It's part of stories, sort of like that
Yeah.
I grew up with, and I sort of like love and enjoy. And more so now as well, it sort of represents sort of like people that I know, sort of like in the community. It's sort of like it's
Mm.
conversation point, things I can talk about. So yeah, it means a lot to me. Probably more than what it should do.
But there's nothing wrong with that, though. There's nothing wrong with that. We all need the escapism, you know,
Mm,
because life is tough. It's tough for everybody. We're all in the same boat, and it's nice to have that something that we can look back on and remember like the days of when we were kids and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with that at all, and to actually visually see stuff that you had as a kid.
mm,
It again, it's not the stuff that I had. I've got an attachment to it, but it would have meant a lot more if it was mine from a
mm,
kid. But I think everybody needs that, and I guarantee you now that regardless of whether you collect or not, people that will always have something to look back on and remember and have fond memories of, and that have that nostalgia feel. And everybody has got that. Some people, they probably don't admit it, others do. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
like I say, nothing to be ashamed of. It's great, and it's a great community we're part of. So
No,
yeah,
I'm not ashamed. I'm going to keep on going to collecting as long as I can, but I
yeah, yeah.
might have to take over another room.
Well,
Just
yeah,
because of
that's
this.
the issue. Space is every collector's worst nightmare. Oh, I can guarantee you that. Um, Anyhow, Andy, we've come to the end of the conversation. I've got to say once again, thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
likewise.
Where can people find you on social media?
I do have an Instagram account, but that's really just to chat to people.
Yep.
And YouTube, Delvian Seek at YouTube.
Okay. What I
Keep
shall
on.
do is I shall leave the links to your social media platforms in the description below so people can come and say hello, introduce themselves to you, check your channel out. I just want to
Thank
say
you.
once again a huge thank you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Cheers. Enjoyed
Not a
that.
problem. Not a problem. Thank you. Yeah, likewise. Likewise. And for those of you at home who have stayed and watched or listened to the end, thank you very much. It does mean a lot. Take care stay safe, and we shall see you in the next one. Bye for now.